and welcome to the Flix Forum podcast, where each episode we go back and we look at a Netflix original film in the order of release. Today we have Netflix 441st film from 2021. It's the Indonesian science fiction film called A World Without. This one's directed by Nia Dinata and stars Amanda Rawles, Maizura and Asmara Abigail. I'm Jesse, I am your host. Thank you for joining me today for this Netflix original film. As always, if this is a movie you haven't seen yet and you are interested in checking it out, give us a pause and come back a little bit later on, because we will spoil this as we go throughout this episode. And we do like to start our show with the Fast Flicks, where we do a quick little summary of what the film is all about. So this one, it's about three best friends who enter a cult to become the best versions of themselves and get married. If that sounds outrageous to you, then maybe that is where we're going to be heading for this episode. What can we find out about this one? How did it end up on Netflix? Very little with this international film. The tagline for this film in, I think it's Malay, it is Harapan Datang Bersama, the light, which translates to hope comes with the light. And the light referring to this cult-like society that plays a big role in this film. And I think if you look at the English title, A World Without, that sort of, if you say that world without the light, or you could put whatever word you want to after that in relation to that. On Netflix, the logline for this one is: three teenage girls in search of happiness decide to join a reclusive community that forbids dating, headed by a charismatic leader. That tries to make it sound a little bit nice, I guess. Around the world, what else is it called? So in Spanish, it's Alters Without Love. So that ties into the idea of getting married, and there's no love involved in this. That makes sense. In Portuguese, it's called It Is Forbidden to Love. There we go. In French, Greek, Romanian, Turkish, and Vietnamese, it's A World Without Love. I kind of like that add into the end there as well. In Czech and Hungarian, it's called An Empty World. Yes, definitely. Japanese, it's World Where You Don't Fall in Love. Cool. In Ukrainian and Russian, it's A World Without Romance, so very similar. And in Chinese, it's Loveless Utopia. There we go. So all ties in and goes in along the lines of, this is a society, a cult where love is not allowed. So how do you feel about that going into this film if you haven't seen it yet? This one hit Netflix on the 14th of October, 2021. Based on what I could tell, I think this was filmed in and around Jakarta in Indonesia. What are the critics and audiences saying about this film? So on Rotten Tomatoes, there's only 2 critic reviews. One's fresh, one's rotten, so that tells us nothing. However, the audience on less than 50 ratings, but it sits at 17%. That is very, very low. Even on IMDb, there's only 484 ratings, but it sits at a 3.9 out of 10. Again, super low. And the same for Letterboxd. It sits at a 2.6 out of 5 on 1,400 ratings and has been logged by 1,800 people. So everything online that you can see probably tells you this hasn't been received too well. But knowing me, what are my thoughts? I could be completely different. Let's jump into my early thoughts. And I think it's a very weird one, this one. You can tell that there was effort put into try and make this an engaging narrative, to make it an engaging film. Unfortunately, it doesn't work. I'm with everyone else. This doesn't work. There's frustrations throughout, and we're going to get to it as we get through this show. So, the director, Nia Dinata, has 11 directing credits, all in Indonesian. Did the Gossip Girl version called Gossip Girl Indonesia. There we go. The only thing I would say is it looks like Nia Dinata was probably about the age of 50 when she made this film. And to me, and I'm not trying to be like ageist or anything, but I think if you're 50 years old, why are you running a film that's a teen film? This is literally a teen film, and I feel like to make a successful teen film, you need to almost be in an age yourself where you're not too far removed from the feelings and the emotions and the ideas of being a teenager too. So maybe that sort of disadvantaged this film a little bit too. Let's talk about the characters in this one. So we've got to start with Selena. There's a range of characters in this film. I'll have bits and pieces to say about all of them. But Selena, she is this, the narrator, I guess, of the film. So almost falls in place as the main protagonist. She's on this journey with her 2 best friends to get married and join this cult, because the rest of the world's screwed after the pandemic. Their society is ruined. This is a place, this utopia that is sold as saving herself and being ready to help save the world. She's smart. She seems intelligent. She comes from what seems like an okay family, even though her father's passed away. So he's missing this father figure and almost longs for one. And that's probably where some issues with the leader of this cult can see that. She's media savvy. She's good with video, but not so much with editing. So that's where she gets tied up with this guy called Hazif and gets to work alongside him. But I guess one of the key rules of the light, the cult, is that boys and girls aren't allowed to communicate unless you're working together. So the two of them, Hazif and Selena, get to work together, and they break the rules blatantly of not just working together, but catching up in stairways and going out on extra expeditions that maybe are seen as doing work, but it's not. And this is because they're falling in love the natural way, which is completely against the whole idea of this the light, the way they are. If I talk a little bit about Hazif, I guess he's good at editing, so he puts together Selena's packages, but in saying that, while they're falling in love the natural way, he's married off to one of her best friends, Ulfa, and I've said there's spoilers, but she's all in. The idea she's there. She wants to get married. She wants to have kids. He knocks her up, but he's still in love with Selena. So it makes this awkward situation if we're talking about Ulfa. And I don't think for her, there's really much going on. Her job's to be an entrepreneur inside this light society. And I think her big idea at one stage was to repackage almonds. So not a great character there. The other best friend of this three friendship is Tara. And she's the complete opposite to the rest of them because she's a flirt, I guess, and she's been dating since the 6th grade and had so many boyfriends, and so the self-shame and embarrassment she feels of almost being like this hussy is a challenge for her to be accepted by this new place, and she's worried about her previous life and whether she'll be judged and whether this new opportunity is really for her. Because she's obviously all about beauty and beauty standards, she's given this job inside the light to help Sophia, who is Ali, the leader's wife, in launching this new makeup range, and I'll talk a little bit soon about who she is married off to as well. I'm going to talk about Ali Khan, the leader of this light, and this is a very self-confident, almost arrogant character who thinks he's pretty amazing. He's good with computers and I guess technology a little bit, and surrounds himself by people that do that too, but he's also a pig. He has this wife, Sophia, who I mentioned, and it seems like she's his wife because she believes in his vision. But the idea with this couple is that they've had numerous miscarriages, and this doesn't seem good enough for Ali, who has quite a temper at times throughout this film, and seen very early on, right from the start, right from the opening moments, is that he likes to touch and harass the teenage girls, that he's almost trapped in this cult. And the idea is that Selena is going to be used by them to get them a baby. This is where this film is going. Nanik is the supervisor lady, I guess, that looks after the three girls when they're sleeping and getting them ready and that sort of stuff. It's almost that old school, typical nanny type thing in a girl's home. I've got to mention Aditya. This is a good-looking bloke whose father is named Mr. Franz, and he is a big donor of the light. So the light will do whatever they can to help Mr. Franz. And Mr. Franz wants to use the light to get Arya a wife. So he's put together with Tara, who I mentioned before. But by the look of things, and obviously this is an Indonesian film, by the look of things, I think he's gay. But because of the money that his dad funds and the corruption in this place, that they try to make this work, and this will probably end up in some scenes that I didn't really like before. There's a few other side characters, Andrew, Joko. Joko's like some big name in social media or something, but he's the one picking the person to make the documentary on this creep Ali that Selena's doing. Realistically, that's it. They're the characters. So let's talk about some scenes. What worked, what didn't work. I think Selena and Hazif, there's one moment they're put together to work on making a documentary on the light. So they're out on assignment, out in the real world to get some footage. I thought that moment was shot really well. They did a really good job of making the outside world look so dull and grey compared to the bright colours and equipment and things that Selena and Hazif were wearing and doing. So I thought that was really well done. And at the end, this was humorous, actually. Sophia tells Ali that she never approved of his documentary because everything falls apart. So I thought that was quite funny. But unfortunately, there's a bit that doesn't work in this one. So right at the start, there's this whole auditorium full of everyone that's joining this cult. And Ali's on stage preaching to be the best version of yourself and make sure that you control your raging hormones and things like this. And Tara ends up with the microphone, and this is where she goes on a rant and gets upset about not being worthy because she's been dating since she was 6. Like, that was laughable. And I was just like, what is this cult stuff already? And then the microphone goes to Selena, and this is the first moment where Ali hugs her weirdly, like a bit of a creep straight up. It just felt off. And then Tara's upset because this is just a little side story where there's one runaway line that she's upset about her dating history, because at one stage she was kissing her boyfriend and he lost control of the wheel and he obviously died. Like, why? It didn't add anything to the story. There's a moment where him and Selena have broken away from the CCTV to spend some time together, and he's on his knee pretty much talking Selena up about how much he likes her, but she's so afraid to feel happiness, and it sort of cuts into this song. I think it was like Love is Forbidden, which was woeful and one of the worst songs I've ever heard. And then there's this big deal about them hiding from the security cameras because boys and girls aren't allowed to talk, and then they text each other to meet up again, and I get the idea that they're working together, so probably need to communicate, but surely this surveillance society cult would sort of be onto monitoring the communication between them as well. Ulfa, she turned 17 and she's excited to get married, and she's asking her friends if it will hurt on the wedding night. Is it going to hurt? And I just felt that's not real dialogue. And then it sort of cuts to the leaders of the cult seeing how the matchmaking process works, which was just rubbish in the end. And then there's this follow-up later where Ulfa's like, oh, he was so gentle. Like, it just, I don't know, it just not things that you are used to hearing as even like dialogue in real life, I think. Then the ceremony where Ulfa's married, and it's so sad because where Hazif is so sad that he's getting married because it's not Selena, and Selena's off to the side just crying, and then it's like kiss the bride and he kisses her on the forehead. Like, I understand cultural differences, it just felt weird. Ali goes in to tell Selena that she's going to do this documentary on him. It was just creepy, just weird. Then back to the idea of these messages. Havis is married off to Ulfa, and he's still texting Selena saying that he has love for her. And this no communication thing, it's just not working, obviously. There's this selfie moment where Ali gets a selfie with all the girls and puts his arm around them, just like creepy. That was weird. Ulfa, she's like, oh, I felt sick all day. I can't stand the way that you smell. I'm so hungry. I can't wait to eat. Like, just these 3 blatant clues that she was pregnant. Like, we didn't need to understand that. There's this other song. I mentioned the song before. There's a song about nature, you and me, and all the hopes and all the loves. This was the worst singing I think I've heard in a song. It was bad. This Miss Nankik lady, her advice to Selena is about, you make documentaries, you make videos, just follow your subject no matter what. Lame. This was really off-putting. There's this Tara assault sort of stuff. That was just not on, like, just not acceptable at all. There's a moment where Selena is called in to see Ali and Sophia, and they're sitting on the couch and they're like, welcome to our family, marry us. And then she like passes out. Again, laughable and just weird. Tara, she's trying to escape her husband who's set up this sexual assault, and then she like gets out of the house and she gets in the car to drive off, and instead of just speeding off, she like, the window's like wound down and he's talking to her and he's like, well, make sure you drive safely, please. Please, you can't back up such horrendous stuff with that. Havis tells Yulfa that he loves Selena, with Selena right there, and she obviously loses it, and it's like, how could you? You're my best friend. And then she's like, get the F out of here, both of you. That was just laughable. Tara, she's trying to talk to Sophia about the assault that's occurred, and her communication to her is like, well, you know, we're wives, we need to benefit from our husband's power, and the wife's duty to serve a husband. Like, please, this is where, as a film, you could stand up and say this is not on, and get her out of the society as well. Hazif, he gets beaten in a cell. It was just laughable. And then finally there's a baby birth in a car. It was just, there's so much in this that just didn't work. Some themes, some ideas, what this film's trying to say. Obviously, the idea of a utopia, or this world without flaws, and escaping surveillance society as well. The environmental disaster plays out throughout as well, especially the idea of government sanctions and the after effects of COVID, or during COVID when this came out, reflecting what was happening in the world at the time. It's trying to push that idea of women empowerment, but I found it really hard to connect with this because I don't think it really is. I mean, the idea that Tara's working with beauty products to cover imperfections. There's these forced underage marriages that the girls are all on board for. They don't actually stand up and say they don't want that. And it's not like, it's not like these are rejected completely, because the focus of this film is the three girls finding the perfect husband. So, I found it really hard. The other parts, I guess, the media or the influence of the media is played throughout Selena's role and trying to influence and trying to create content that can inform, but also the idea too that how easily the youth can be manipulated, not necessarily through the media, but through lifestyle and wanting to be happy and living life how you can, and sometimes desperation of what you'll do to get away from your actual realities at the time too. What did I take away from this film? I think, obviously, this is made in Indonesia, which is a conservative Islamic Asian nation. So this film is probably pretty risque, to be honest, and probably took a lot of guts and courage to actually make this film and some of the things that are in this film. But in pushing those limits for what you can show on screen, it sort of makes for some uncomfortable watching for Western cultured people through the dialogue and through some of the moments too. So that's probably my takeaway. Some other questions, some ponderings, some thoughts, some ideas to finish this one off. I think if... and this is seen throughout the film, if there are people who have already escaped this cult, the light, and there are videos online already, and we see this in moments where they're out in the general population, where there's people out in the streets don't like the place, how is it still running? How has it not been shut down? How has it not been investigated? I understand they're supported by people with big money and politicians, but especially considering this is pretty much child trafficking, it just doesn't make sense. The whole basis of the film doesn't make sense, which makes it tricky to get on board, because there's no hope really that, even though Selena at the end of the film has all this footage of all the bad things to release, I'm sure this cult's going to still continue because people have already released stuff to say how bad they are. So I'm sure they'll rebound. The light, or this cult, they are about making a better planet, and they mention that the profit they make from the cosmetics gets donated to, I think it was like disability charities. This still isn't good for the environment though, so it sort of it backflips on this message. I think the worst thing about the film is that it doesn't uphold or challenge or fight for human emotions and how humans feel. The human connection that is in this film is between Selena and Hasif, but they pretty much write this off by getting him knocking up her best friend straight away, and it's game over. So the film is pretty much over from that moment too, where they're not going to get together unless he becomes the worst father in the world and ditches his wife and child to be with the person he loves. It ruins it, to be honest. And I think you got to mention, like, how screwed up is a society where teenage girls are trained to dream of getting married. That's like their one goal in life. It didn't sit very well with me. And in the background at one stage too, I think it was on the news, there's a news broadcast where they're talking about raising the age of marriage to 19. So it's obviously an issue in real life too. There's a moment, this is an observation, I guess. Ufa, on her birthday, she turned 17, and they've got candles and these little cupcakes to blow out the candles. But instead of blowing them out by using her breath, she waves a piece of paper to put it out. Is this like a thing from COVID where people didn't want to actually blow the candles? Or is this an Indonesian thing where you don't actually blow the candles out, you just wave it? I thought that was interesting. I'm probably going about the same sort of stuff, but imagine how Selena would have felt when Ufa's like, I'm pregnant. This is the guy that she's got the hots for, that she's built a connection with, that she works with, that she's set on marrying herself, and then the one human emotional connection that is made in this film is just broken by that. And I think the idea that love is important. Love is important. You shouldn't be with someone that you don't actually love, and you shouldn't get married first to then find love. You need that love moments first. So I think, while they don't really promote it, there was this one line of dialogue, I think it was like, no one deserves to be treated like this because they fell in love. And that was when Ufa was defending Hasif or whatever, when he's locked up. Just a poor line. And also too, Ali and Sophia, they're drinking, I think, glasses of champagne because they're ready to get Selena pregnant. And I thought alcohol was a bit of a taboo thing as well. But anyway, that's it. I'm done. Let's wrap this up. We give the film a rating out of 5 on this show. For me, I can't recommend this. It's got some really poor moments throughout. Feels like a bit of a mess. Visually, it's okay at times. That futuristic style, you can tell there's been effort put into it. But the dialogue, the narrative, it doesn't know what it's trying to do. I wasn't confused, but I just felt confused with that message. I think, like, if you're going to make a film like this, you've either got to follow one line and go, this is all about true love and what true love means. So for me, this is a 1.5 out of 5. Pretty ordinary score. We're on socials. We have Facebook, we have Instagram, and we have X, formerly known as Twitter. Give us a follow, give us a like if you can. The question I wanted to ask was, what happens to Hazif at the end? The idea is he's stuck, I guess, at the light still. He can't escape. He's stuck there. He's got a brand new kid that's just been born, and he's trapped. Does he escape? Does he get out? Does the light get shut down, or is he just stuck there and remarried off to someone else? I don't know. I don't think there's going to be a sequel, but I think that's probably an answer that probably needed to be made. You needed to have him escape to be together and be reunited, because that is an example of true love, the love of your own child. I'm done. I'm done with this film. We're back next week with another international film from 2021. It's the German romantic comedy called The Four of Us, or Du Sie, Er and Wer. It's directed by Florian Gottschalk and stars Louis Nietzsche, Jonas Ney, Paula Kallenberg, Nilam Farouk, Tim Oliver Schultz, and Janina Elkin. So give that one a check. I've got no idea what that one's about. Let's join in blind next week together, or you could watch it beforehand. Other than that, always appreciate your time. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you next week.